You're listening to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars begins now.
All right, well, hello, everybody. I'm Eric Bansell.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
And, of course, we are your hosts for this wonderful show, in which one of my coworkers, actually, who was one of our regular viewers, has recommended a topic, and...
As we often tell you guys to do, so
yeah,
whatever comes up, that's what comes up.
Yeah, we tell you guys to do it, and he basically put it under the guise of, you know what, this would be a lot of fun if you guys did this. And I thought, you know what, why not? I mean, it's a little, maybe it's not the best thing to do during the times that we live in, but you know what, if you just look at it as a celebration of the inner and outer beauty of of each of these women, then you know you're halfway there basically. All right, and we're also going to try this whole call-in thing again. So if you guys want to, actually call in and talk to us, weigh in. I'll tell you how we're going to do this show. But if you want to weigh in on everything, you can call us at 888-778-3649, and then we'll just talk about. Well, in this case, it's probably whoever the hottest woman in Star Wars is. So we should probably frame how we're going to do this.
Yes, we need a rubric here.
Yeah, well, we need to at least share with the people how we're doing this. So he and I each threw, like 5 names or something out there as far as who we thought were attractive. And again, the ground rules is it does not necessarily have to be somebody that's been in live action or anything like that. I mean, it could be an animated character. It could be somebody from the expanded universe because, they did draw the covers.
That's a little weird, but okay.
Well, but you'd be surprised. I mean, that's,
that's kind of, in a way, that's kind of cheating because it's like, of course you can draw a hot person. I mean, like,
yes, but here's, you got to let me finish the stipulation, though. Because you're right, that would be cheesy and that would be unfair. But you have to ascribe an actress that could play her. See, that's where it becomes a little tricky. It's like, okay, yeah, you want to throw out a character that's like an animation? Because remember, I mean, it was the same thing like what we did with Ahsoka, actually.
So like Dr. Aphra, like, okay, well, who would play Dr. Aphra? Basically?
Yeah, exactly. It's like if you're going to put Dr. Aphra in there, then you're going to have to, put up an actress or two that you think could play her. Because again, that's where it gets a little strange. It's like, well, who's the hottest? It's like, well, it would be tempting, of course, to just include people that have been live action for obvious reasons. Because I could see where it might be, you're walking that line of sanity, really, when you're...
Yeah.
Or the fetish land, to where this would be a very different YouTube channel.
Right, got high and tie and all types of stuff.
Exactly. It's like all kinds of crazy things. So, again, as we go on through there, if anybody's brave enough to call and weigh in on who they think is the hottest or whatever, we're good with that. Also, like I said, we got 10. We're gonna get the ball rolling. We're gonna start you guys off, and we're basically gonna do 10 of these.
Now, there's no winner for this, right? This just
no, and that's why
we're just commenting on these.
Right. I mean, if you notice, like this is not a weighted list. That's why I don't have any numbers on it. Like you'll notice as we feature the women, it's not like number 10, number 9, number 8, because that would be an interesting exercise.
It's really subjective too, though.
It is.
It's really subjective too, because now you got to, because your tastes are different than my tastes, and that's who's to say,
Well, and that's it. I mean, it would be really difficult to weigh them because the other problem is a lot of them are different, right? There's no type to where you have like some sort of a framework upon which you can actually judge. You need some sort of barometer, right? If you're going to weigh the list. Because otherwise, you're right. I mean, it's like this just becomes an exercise in subjectivity.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why, we're presenting this list. It's our own list. I should actually point that out. No help from Screen Rant or any of the other ones today. This is a legitimate original, and I'm sure one of the guys, because we have a couple of trolls that love to just troll the page. They'll probably be like, yeah, that's why it sucked. Whatever. How can you say no to beautiful women, right? All right, so we might as well get this we'll get this party started. And again, like I said, so it's not a weighted list. It certainly isn't going to be complete. I mean, these are people that we just kind of came up. This topic actually only came up a few days ago, so we didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare. But it is what it is. But I think we actually got some pretty good. Like, we got a good cross section of characters, different types of beauty, different types of attitude. Because that's the other thing too. I think that sometimes your opinion might be colored by, it might be a character that's a favorite character of yours too.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, I mean, of course, like, say, Dave Filoni is going to say Ahsoka's the hottest, no matter who plays her, because that's his creation. So we just thought we would get some of that housekeeping out of the way, and without further ado, we go to our first beautiful lady of Star Wars. Right,
Miss American pageant.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Ming-Na Wen. Now she's, obviously she plays Fennec Shan. She's somebody that I remember actually seeing her for the first time in the Street Fighter movie. She played Chun-Li.
Yep.
And that was what put her on my radar, actually. I was kind of like, oh, I wonder who this is. But a lot of times she's been playing more stoic, serious type roles or whatever, usually like doctors or something like that. So it's easy to overlook her in some cases because sometimes they'll try to have her look a little bit plainer than she is. But and then of course the other thing is a lot of her clothing is not necessarily that revealing. So sometimes you forget, like, wow, okay, she's actually in really good shape, considering, isn't she like 60 or something?
That's a good question. I remember she is a bit older than what most people would think that she is.
But, yeah, I know she's older than I am. And I just remember, though, that she's like old enough to where I was like, really? Because, you look at her skin and everything else, and I mean,
yeah, she's actually 60.
Yeah. Yeah, she does not.
She'll be 61 in November.
Of course. Of course. Yeah, this is I don't know. That if that's 60, that's just
yeah,
incredible.
Man. And that's really good. I mean, she's, like you said, she's in phenomenal shape. She has a very I think you could put her in different scenarios with her look. I mean, she does have a mature look, but I could see her, and she has the athletic prowess to, play someone significantly younger. I don't know how old Fennec Shan is supposed to be, but yeah, man. I mean, Fennec Shan is, she could be really attractive, and Ming-Na Wen, like I said, when you have this picture of her, in the nerd shirt, and yeah, man, she's like 60, rocking abs,
Yeah.
All right, I'm not mad at it.
I mean, yeah, you gotta take your hat off. We'll leave it at the hat. To somebody like this.
Which hat? Never mind.
Yeah, right? Because it's true. I mean, obviously, as you get older, it's a lot tougher to stay in shape. So, kudos to her, too, for actually doing that. Because, like I said, with a lot of the roles that she plays, she doesn't necessarily have to. It's not like she's in Marvel movie after Marvel movie or something. It's like there hasn't been that huge need for her to be in crazy shape. But yeah. All right.
She pulls it up.
That's right. All right. So who's next? Who we got next? Yes. Amy Allen, aka Aayla Secura. She's another one. You know who You know who I was tempted to actually try to include in this list
Oh,
was, you remember the two women that were around Sebulba? The two Twi'leks that were around Sebulba before the pod
uh,
race?
okay, so that's
Phantom
yeah,
Menace.
because I'm trying to think of the scene now. Was it when he was doing the chance cube thing with
No, 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 no. No.
You said
You're
but you
thinking
said before the
Watto.
pod race.
And I said Sebulba.
Sabub. Yes, Sabub. Okay.
He had those,
Um
like, very shapely Twi'leks with him.
yeah. Very vaguely I remember.
I was tempted to put one of them. But obviously they made more of an impression
That
on me than you. I'll,
yes.
I'll put it like that.
I was watching the movie, Eric knows.
Yeah,
But
I
you know
know.
what? The Twi'leks are always been like an attractive race anyway, though.
I
I mean,
know.
like
I know, even with the
there's
little...
some that are really, because Harris and Dula. I mean, that's another one if you want to, at least especially the animated version. I mean, they drew her really well. I'm not so sure about the live action I mean, the live action one did have a nice hindquarters on her. I will, you know,
Well, and so did
tip my hat and my drink to that. But
who's Ewan McGregor's wife? Um
Mrs. McGregor.
who did she... Wait, did she play Harrison Dula?
Was she
No, she was
what's the face? The acolyte. Was she in the
no, 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 no. She wasn't in the Acolyte. I think actually she did play Hera. And we were talking about the rear view, shall we say,
eh.
she would certainly fit that description. Let's just put it like that. But a lot of people sleep on some of these minor characters, right? Like some of these that they're around and they actually have a lot of significance in canon, but people overlook Amy Allen. I mean, because look at how beautiful she is. I mean, it's like, it's one of those things that you can always tell because even if they put them in some weird makeup or they do some, other thing or whatever. I mean, it's so funny to me how a lot of times it's just like in Cobra Kai, the bag lady, the homeless woman,
Oh yeah.
and then you see her like out of that makeup and it's like, whoa, she's like a model or something. So they can do quite a bit. But I always thought that she was one of the beautiful ones too, and one that people don't necessarily think of. I don't think when they put together these lists. There's a couple that everybody goes to immediately, and then of course that's why it'll be curious if anybody chats in tonight or even calls in because you have a situation where you could have 5 guys call in, and you're gonna get like 5 different answers. Especially if you say, well, who's the hottest? Like, we're putting 10 of them out there to just, I don't know, just to
Just kind of
give people
chum
ideas. Yeah,
chum the waters as a word. As a
right.
word.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. Chum the waters, just try to maybe stoke the fires, get a few ideas out there. And also, look, I mean, again, this seems probably like not the most 2024 friendly show, given that it's probably a tad bit misogynistic or whatever, but it really isn't, because one of the
No.
other things that's nice about this is we get to actually celebrate these women as well, because a lot of times, like I said, one, when they're all in makeup and everything like that, you don't necessarily see that they're actually pretty hot outside of that, but also it's sort of a good way to talk about some of the other projects that these people have been in, because a lot of them leave Star Wars and they go and they do some really cool stuff.
Oh yeah, indeed. Um, Now when she played Ayla Secura, which film was this in? You remember which one this was? Was this Attack of the
Well,
Clones?
yeah, it would have been Attack of the Clones.
That's what I
I don't
thought.
I don't remember if Ayla was in Revenge of the Sith or not.
She looks like a teacher, Amy
I
Allen.
know. Yeah, I know. I was thinking that too.
she
Like one of
looks like
those
the hot.
the
She looks
hot
like the
but
hot
stern
science teacher.
teacher. Yeah.
Yeah, the hot science teacher. That's
Yep.
like, all right.
She
I'm
kind of
sorry, I
has
left
a
my homework.
she almost has a Denise Richards look about her actually. That's who she
I can
reminds
see
me
that.
of, you know. All
I can
right.
see it. She also like one of the women Frasier would have dated.
Yes. Well, and some of these people, I think some of them were actually alumni of Frasier. I remember running into, oh, I don't know, because there were so many other people. When I was trying to come up with my five, it was like, I was just, there were some that I knew right away that I was going to do, but then there were other ones where I'm like, well, I don't want to do one of those things where you choose and then, you're like, oh man, I forgot about this person or whatever. I mean, that's part of the fun when people actually start to comment on theirs is you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that one or whatever. That's always fun. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It seems like one of the ones that Frasier would go after, but maybe not necessarily land. But you never know.
I can see that.
I can see that. All right. Next we have Moses Ingram, who's Reva, third sister. And she's another one. She
Yeah,
looks a lot different, when you just kind of get her out in normal earthly clothes.
yeah, man. Like when I saw, I was looking up Moses, and first of all, let's just say, I'm just gonna say out the gate, like it's weird that it's a woman named Moses. You always kind of associate that with more of a guy, so that
Yeah.
kind of throws you off at first. And then she's like a very, she has this very stern role. Um, However, like when you actually look at some of her, like if you guys have nothing better else to do, check out her stuff on Instagram or, some of her other platforms. And like she's in these dresses and she's like in award shows and things. You just like, man, like she's actually like really gorgeous when they don't have her like all because in this, she kind of has to be more. She's in the military, so she has to look very plain, very stoic. You don't have a chance to really exude your femininity when you're in the Empire, essentially. But like you said, when she's in civilian wear, when she's just being Moses, you know, yeah, and she's, I definitely had to throw her on the list, um, just because she's a different look than what most people will normally see in Star Wars.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing too, is that there's a lot of like I mean, there's you have like just different styles of beauty, but you also just have like different everything. Because here's what you got to look at, right? In most science fiction, they usually go to one type. Like if they're looking for
Yeah,
women in it, it's usually one type of woman. It's that stereotypical woman in distress kind of thing, or
the
maybe
hot
the
blonde usually.
yeah, or something. There's a couple of archetypes in there, but I mean, there's a few general types that they do that are generally how they cast science fiction roles. It's changed, of course, over time, and I think Star Wars is one of the keys to that. Is the fact that there's, I mean, everything. I mean, there's different races, different builds, different looks, different types of beauty, different personality traits and everything that go against the type or whatever. So I mean, I think that Star Wars has really been successful at doing that. So I think that as a result, you're gonna get a wide variety of women in this, because they're not
Well,
fitting one type.
that's what I like about it. So like at least they give you some different things to, from a guy's perspective. Let's just
Some
call
different
this
eye
what this is.
candy.
Yeah, I mean, look, listen, who wants to eat, like the same Jolly Rancher all the time? Give me a Starburst pack where I got, cherry, pink lemonade, lemon. Give me a smorgasbord of of eye candy if you're gonna do it. And that's what I love about Star Wars. They have, like you said, women who are, tall. Like if you're looking to more tall and muscular women, there's uh Gwendolyn Christie, if you are into Captain Phasma or something like that, hey, she's in there. If you're into something a little bit softer, you know, you got Ayla Sakura, or if you like a little aggression in yours, now you got Moses Ingram. So hey,
So basically, what you're saying is it's a giant brothel. I mean, I'm just saying. All right, so Ted Adam Green, he writes into us. He says, "Coming in late, guys. Hope all is well on this Star Wars podcast night. I'll go back and catch what I missed afterward. Moses is definitely one to be on this list for sure."
Yeah, see? Ted
Yeah,
Green knows what I'm talking
yeah,
about.
Ted knows what's up. And
Yep,
that's that's the thing. You have to.
I gotta make a joke. Yeah.
You gotta.
I'm trying to be an adult
I
here, man.
know it's tough. Well, look, this is not the most
What
adult
the
topic to
adult-
be talking about. This is like
So, why not? Screw it.
this
I'm
is
just- I'm gonna
definitely
be
frat boy
adolescent.
stuff. But you know what? I mean,
I'm gonna be
hey.
an adolescent today.
Well, and that's the thing. Look, I was thinking about this too. Last Sunday's show was our whole tribute to James Earl Jones, so it was kind of more of a somber, serious, reflective kind of thing. So we were due. That's why when my coworker suggested this topic, I'm like, you know what? We need something that's a little bit more lighthearted this week. Let's. I mean, what's more lighthearted than that? Now, of course, I do know that we have female viewers. Of course, you might be into this list too, right? But
I mean, that's the cool thing about women too, that they can appreciate more so
stuff
than
like
us.
that.
They can
Which is-
women's women's bodies more than we. I mean,
More than we can.
Another guy.
Exactly, which is why
No.
I say that I would have a very difficult time flipping the script and putting the hottest dudes in Star Wars. I don't think,
Yeah,
you'd have to have a special guest to carry that one, because I don't think that I could
Yeah,
sit
I'm
there
out.
and do that. Yeah.
you just have to switch the show at that point, and now it just.
Well, especially with a name
don't
like
know.
Head to Head. I mean, that just... I mean,
Oh God!
you're you're asking for it at that point.
We would lose every single male follower that day.
Yeah.
all male subscribers like, yep, all right, I'm out.
That's why we're trying to get him back for this. All right, so this next one, admittedly, is one of mine. Yes, it's a fictitious character. Yes, I did.
Well, they're all fictitious.
Well, the character, yeah, you're right. But I mean, that's oh wow, yeah, that made me sound like a little bit more nerdy than I expected to come off. But here's the thing.
No, dude, she's real. I swear.
Exactly. I'm starting to talk about. I've got wallpaper. Like, this is the only blank wall in the room. Got to keep up appearances, right? But the thing that was funny about this is I started thinking about just a lot of the times where, you're writing a character, for instance, and the writer has an idea. Usually the writer, and I'm not going to say all the time, but usually the writer has a picture in his or her head of who they think should be playing this character should it ever become a film or television event or whatever. But a lot of times, and this often happens, of course, in the more fantasy type realm, whether you're talking about superheroes or other franchises like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, is that now you had the ability to draw out these characters and flesh them out first, and then go find an actor or actress that fits that role. So to that end, I had to warm everything up for this one. To that end, I think that Mara Jade is
This is coming.
a completely, I mean, ever since the description of the book, but then they started drawing her out, and I'm like, man. But I found this actress, Karen Gillan. Well, I don't know, man. I think she's got that look. I think that she would be the one.
Yes, I mean, she's definitely got the look. Now,
I know, can she act, right?
Can
I
she-
mean,
right, because that's what David cares about. So
I don't know. I might make an exception on this one. Only because, hold on, I know how that sounds. Only because that if somebody embodies enough of the character that you can sort of fake it, they don't need to be an Oscar winner. They just need to be able to pull off pretty
they
much,
just need to convey the character.
just bringing that particular character to life. Although, yeah, I mean, granted, obviously it would be better if they could act and everything else. But I'm trying to remember. I had looked her up the other night. She's been in some other really cool stuff, though. Like, it's not just, somebody found her modeling or something on a beach somewhere. And it's like, oh, you look exactly like the person we need. So I think ultimately it's just going to come down to, who they want. Because I have no doubt in my mind that somebody's going to bring this character to life at some point. I can't imagine Mara Jade not coming into the picture at some point. But it just depends on, how they want to interpret the character too.
Yeah, especially if you're going backwards and dealing with Luke Skywalker, you'd almost have to like bring Mara Jade into it because she's such a pivotal character
Yeah, I just think,
to Luke's story. You know what I mean?
yeah, right. But I mean, and look, they can always get around the Mara Jade character. They don't necessarily have to write her in. I don't know. So Ted basically has a interesting comment. He says, Karen could be good, but also Star Wars director Bryce Dallas Howard could be Mara Jade too. And I remember thinking of that back in the day. She sort of has that same look. But the problem is that, I mean, I hate to say it like this, but, her weight fluctuates a little bit too much. And you got to be able to fit into that costume.
Yeah, I mean, for certain roles, I mean, let's just face it, if you're doing Baywatch, they even talked about the whole Baywatch show, like they made them like you had to be in a certain, like you couldn't go over a certain weight because you wouldn't look right on television. So they had to follow these strict diets and workout plans and all this stuff just to be on that show, both men and women. But of course, it was harder for the women. But yeah, I mean, that's just part of the role. I mean, everybody knows that. So hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, and I mean,
That's the name of the game.
and that's the thing. You just, a lot of times, and that's another problem with doing these lists, actually, is a lot of times you end up with a situation where people get all up in arms because it looks like you're objectifying women and all this other stuff. When, I mean, the reality is that it really is more of an appreciative thing. And I don't know. I just think that because women have to struggle so hard to, like you said, work out and maintain a certain weight or a certain look, like, no, you have to have that same hairstyle for like 7 years because the show is going on, right? So this is another way that we can actually highlight some of these sacrifices and the rewards that they're getting. See how I'm fighting to legitimize this thing.
Man, listen. I mean, you're doing a phenomenal job, by the way.
Well, thank you. I mean,
you say that. But I mean, I'm gonna be I'll be the bad guy. Listen, it's Hollywood. Like you understand that certain roles call for certain looks. If you're not tall enough, if you're not pretty enough, if you're not the right size, I mean, and it can go both ways. I mean, because that's why you don't have Beyonce playing Effie in Dreamgirls. Why? Because she's not Effie's size. Like Effie was
Right.
a bigger person, so you wouldn't have Beyonce play that character. It doesn't make sense. So she's better suited as Dina because she fits that profile. Besides, look at our athletes. All the football players and basketball players. They talk about it all the time. They talked about how Charles Barkley would come in. Oh man, he's overweight. He's out of shape. He needs to lose the weight. All that. They're not renewing his contract because he can't keep his weight under control.
Wow.
Hey, look, this is the name of the game.
Yeah.
This is what you signed up for. So if you don't want to be objectified, you're going out for this role, which is clearly designed for certain things, like a Marvel movie. The guys, these comic book writers drew the women. Sure, they're powerful and they have a say, and I'm not saying that, I'm not taking anything away from them. But let's just face it. When you look at these comic books, they're not making them plain Jane.
No,
like
they're
that.
not.
I mean, come on now.
No.
So let's cut the crap. let's just be honest, people. Jeez.
Yep. Yep, they know what is on prepubescent males' minds.
Of course.
Speaking of us, uh, the next one is, of course, Gina Carano.
Mm.
Now, the thing about her is that naturally, being an MMA fighter, she had to keep herself in like a pretty tighter shape. And this is
Mhm.
another example of like two different beauties, right? Because obviously, Gina gained a little bit of weight, got a little bit bigger or whatever, but she still looks really good. So it's
Yeah.
like kind of a
But see,
different kind of vibe.
yeah, and see, Gina strikes a chord with me because of the whole MMA thing. See, to me, that's attractive. Like anybody who knows me knows I'm super attracted to Ronda Rousey. So Gina, just her skill set. It's like, okay, not only you're not like a bad looking chick, but then you also have like the skill set that now I feel like if we were to date, like, yeah, we'd be wrestling and rolling around all day just because like I have someone I can technically spar with, if you will. So that makes her hot in my book. So I'm good with it.
Well, I mean, but again, the picture on the right is more her MMA shape.
Yeah.
Because it's basically the same thing. All she did was she just gained body fat around the muscle, pretty much. Kind of like what a lot
Hmm.
of athletes do in the off season.
Yep.
But it's just interesting because you would have thought that maybe they would have pressured her into that, and they didn't. I mean, because it wasn't that long ago. It's almost too bad that David seems to be missing this. I'm about to make a Fast and Furious reference.
Yeah. Well, that's funny because this is one of his favorite characters, actually.
Oh yeah, I mean everybody. I think the Cara Dune character is somebody that resonated very quickly with audiences, and it wasn't something that I don't think anybody would have necessarily anticipated. You know what I mean? It's like I don't think that like it was almost the opposite of the Phasma thing. I mean, when you saw Captain Phasma in the commercials, you instantly wanted to know more about the character. You wanted the action figure,
Hmm.
all that, right? Which is why when she was underutilized, I think it made people even more angry than it normally would have. But a character like Cara Dune, though, you just basically look at. I mean, even in the trailers and stuff, it's like okay, she's cool, but she's just kind of like a supportive background character. But then it turned into anything but, and then she quickly became a fan favorite. And
Yeah. I mean, especially like with the was it it was in season two. Was it season two with the Luke Skywalker?
mm-hmm.
Or was that three?
No,
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker
Season
was the end of two.
into two. Yeah, like that whole scene when they were like storming the stronghold, basically. She had that big like it's almost like a Gatling gun that she was running around with that end up jamming on
Right,
her.
she was a Jesse
Like she was the only
Ventura in
right
this one.
or yeah, or Terry Crews, basically almost like because Terry Crews did something like that. Even The Rock did it in that I think one of the in the Fast and Furious movie. So yeah, just the fact that she's strong, they made her look strong enough to be able to pick that up, and she kind of showed her like she's definitely the muscle of the group. Loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. I always actually where I developed my little thing for was the Fast and the Furious 7 movie. Because
Hmm.
remember her and Ronda Rousey had that little cameo at the party or whatever? And I mean,
Yes.
I thought Gina looked amazing. I'm like, oh, all right. now I get
Yeah.
it. Because she was one of those that I had heard her name, but I never really, it never really registered with
And
me until, then I'm like, all right, she's all right.
I might have to watch that tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Exactly. Gonna do a Mandalorian binge. All right, so who do we got next? Yes, Rosario Dawson. Another one. Now it's
So
funny. My my first encounter with Rosario Dawson was Josie and the Pussycats.
mm,
That was the first, it was her. She played like the bass player, I think. Tara Reid was a drummer. Oh, and I forgot who played Josie. But yeah, it was a I love that movie. But ever since then, I had sort of mildly followed Rosario Dawson. So that's why when, we were talking about the whole live action thing, I remember that was one of the things I said, years ago, like, oh, this is the perfect woman to play her, but
Yeah, man. I
very,
mean,
very
especially
rare when that happens. You know what I mean? It's like,
right that we actually get it. Well, when I first, I'm like, man, if you just put the makeup, I mean, she looks. I mean,
exactly. Like, because if you
especially if you
just,
want to play makeup older too, it's definitely like an older version of Ahsoka.
uh-huh.
Plus, I love I loved her in the rundown with
Yep.
Rock and Sean what's his name from
I
American
know.
Pie?
Williams
That's right.
something.
Sean William Scott. Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, like she was great in that one. Um but she's always, like I said, she's always been a very active person. Like she's done some action type stuff, as you can see here. She was also in if I'm not mistaken, that was also her in that Jamie Foxx movie when they were flying those fighter jets, and they had that one that was AI and that went rogue.
Oh,
They were,
yeah. I remember that movie.
remember that one? Yeah,
Yeah. And I
she
think,
was
yeah,
one of
you're
the
right. I think,
pilots.
yep. I
I
think,
think she was one of
right.
the pilots in there too.
I think you're right. Yeah. Because I remember following her career after seeing that movie. So that came out like in
Yeah.
the late 90s or something, like 97, 98,
Hmm.
somewhere in there. And so ever since then, I basically loosely followed her. So when I found out that, she actually did get the Ahsoka part, I was just like, sweet. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I
she's
mean, she's got
another
a
one.
beautiful smile, beautiful, beautiful physique. Always, she just seems, and she seems like a really cool person, like just a person that you would want to hang out with. She doesn't seem like the typical. I won't say typical, but she doesn't seem like the type of Hollywood star that would just be stuck up. She
Right.
seems like she's really just down to earth and cool. So I think that's also what makes her attractive too. Just even in the characters that she plays, you feel like you know her.
Yeah, that's actually true. Yep. All right. Next. Ah, yes. Amelia
Mm,
Clark.
Amelia.
Where everybody first saw her naturally in Game of Thrones, but,
Yep.
like this look is really cool. They kind of got that whole classic like 1940s, film noir kind of thing going.
Yeah. It looked like she could have dated like Captain America, like
Yeah, right.
like actually back in
Right.
that time period,
Yep. That's it.
she would have definitely dated Captain America, man.
And what I find funny is that this picture that I found, it's like almost the same like this is almost like Qi'ra after dark or something. Like maybe after, she gets home, long
Well, see,
day.
the one on the left is, before she goes on the date. The other one on the right is after.
All right, we could turn this into like a Star Wars meme.
It's like, all right, after dinner's over, let's go
Yeah,
back to my
before
place
the
for drinks.
date, after the date. Dude, you almost make me want to do that, man, because that will be the thing that goes viral and gets us talked about. All these shows that we do.
I
But
know,
yeah,
but yeah,
she's another one that has like a different, it's like just a little bit different from the typical, hot woman thing.
there's something about her that kind of has almost like an exotic kind of a look to her.
Yeah,
Almost kind of
exactly.
like how a lot of women look at Jason Momoa, but this is almost like a female version of that. Like she kind of has a very mysterious, very um playful, sensual, but kind of like you don't all the way trust her. And that's always kind of the vibe you kind of get with her. Even like her characters, like in when she plays Qi'ra, even in Game of Thrones, she kind of is kind of quiet, soft spoken, but then she awakens and becomes like basically the queen of the dragons, and you know, so then she starts really flexing her muscles and starts flexing her power. And that's the thing about her. She kind of has this quiet yet powerful disposition about her that's like, okay, again, those are some character types that some guys go for. You like some guys like powerful women, but they're not beating their chest that they're powerful, but they're almost like like Griselda, you know, just almost like that crime lord. That's because she kind of plays as Qi'ra. She basically becomes like this crime boss, but she's formidable, definitely. But
Mm-hmm.
you don't when you first look at her, you're not like, oh, whatever. She's not like a Gwendolyn Christie where you're like, okay, you're a big chick. I need to watch out for you. She's very low key, but don't piss her off.
Yeah, exactly. She definitely has like a whole powerful vibe there, and I think that that's something. Again, it's another interesting type of character in Star Wars that we don't see too much, and it's really cool to basically see that, not just from a woman character, but also she's a little bit different than the usual bounty hunters, you know, Imperials, that kind of a thing. She pretty
Hmm.
much walks a different line, and it brings a different element, I think, into Star Wars that, frankly, I think is needed now more than ever. That's why I really would like to see more projects with Amelia in them. Even if she's not playing Qi'ra, maybe she can, lend herself to something else. I don't know. I would always see her as Qi'ra, though. That's the problem. All right. So let's see. Who do we got next? Of course, Daisy Ridley.
Right.
Rey. Maybe a Mary Sue, but not without her, not without the benefits, right?
Yeah.
And again, this is another one where this just goes to show you how with Star Wars they do a really good job of taking these beautiful women and making them somewhat plain at times. It's
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, but the thing is, she's kind of has that girl next door sweetheart look. And I
yeah.
think that's what they were going for, right? And that's the thing, how if you want to name like Daisy Ridley, that just sounds like the girl next door, right? That,
Like
like
she
you
was
see her
just
taking out
doomed
the
from the
trash or
very
something.
beginning. It's like,
Yeah.
hmm,
Yeah, I mean,
you're going to be a girl
it's
next door forever. You will be called Daisy.
yes. I shall dub thee Daisy. But yeah, I mean, I think that she definitely captured that. Now she can, and I've seen her, definitely, spruce herself up and kind of transform, which a lot of women have that, ability to do. But I think with her, she definitely has um that, like I said, that more of a, I don't want to say nerdy, but reserved, conservative um
And maybe
disposition
elegant,
about her.
kind of
Yeah,
like a
more of an
certain
elegant, and
elegance.
I've seen her play those other roles, and
Hmm.
she's also been, and she's got the other thing on Disney Plus now, where she's like that swimmer who's swimming like across.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
supposed to be like a really good movie though. I
Yep.
still have to check it out, but and she plays a lot of period pieces. I've seen, she would delve into things like that, which I think that's where a lot of the classiness of the regality to her comes into play. But she has, but she definitely has that girl next door, the girl, the sweetheart, the one that your mom is basically like, that's a good girl. You make sure you make her an honest woman, that type of thing. So shout out to Daisy Ridley, man.
Yeah.
She actually did and she did a really good job as Ray. I mean, she definitely brought a spunkiness to the character without doing too much. Sure, they made her a Mary Sue in some situations. I don't think that was her,
No, and
doing.
I mean, honestly, I think everybody knows that's a writing problem. That's a basically like a writing character type of issue. I don't think anybody at all has ever criticized Daisy's performance as Rey. I mean, I could be wrong. The troll set is wide and mighty, but I don't recall really anybody ever criticizing her portrayal of Rey so much as just they thought that Rey was a poorly written character, and I mean, they're not necessarily wrong.
Wrong.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of good elements to her character too, like you started to point out. Because again, she's another different type. She has some of a Luke Skywalker kind of vibe going, but not really. It's like
A
she's
little-
still her own character, though. You
Yeah,
know?
she has. To me, she has more of a Leia in her, and that's why I love
Yeah, that's a good
seeing
point.
her. She had that spunkiness that Leia has, where she would question a bunch of stuff, and you know, she was a little bit more. Um, she wasn't afraid to fight. She definitely stood up for what she believed in, and I think that's kind of what made the scene so touching. Like when after Carrie Fisher passed, and they actually inserted uh those clips of her into the Rise of Skywalker when she was doing that initial training when she was running through the forest. And but when she looked back and she looked at Carrie, it's like Carrie could kind of almost, or Leia, it's like kind of looking at her and saying like, "Yep, that's my girl. Like you've got it." That type of thing. It's kind of like she got more so of that approval, and she should have, Leia probably should have been more of her teacher than Luke in a lot of ways.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that would have been a lot better. And I think that was the plan. I think it
I
was
think so.
because,
And that would
okay,
have been cool.
granted, it would have. And, he had that whole training scene, obviously, in The Last Jedi. They were making that before she died. But I think the plan was always that Luke would kind of introduce her to it. But then Leia would be the one mainly to take her on after Luke gave her. Luke was kind of like the Obi-Wan and she was like the Yoda.
Yeah, and I think it should have been reversed. I think if Leia should have been the Obi-Wan and Luke should have been Yoda.
Really?
Yeah, because I think
Is it
Leia
because you
would have.
think that you think Obi-Wan had more of an influence on Luke than Yoda did? Is that why?
I think so, but for a different reason. Like I think he was more. You got to think about it. Like when Luke built his lightsaber, he modeled it after Ben's. He didn't model it after Yoda. And he was always looking for Ben for guidance and things like that. And I feel like Leia understood Ray more than Luke did.
Yeah, basically.
But I think Leia could have helped Ray understand the world that she's in and what she's about to get herself into, and kind of help her with that. And once she was ready, then pass her off to Luke, who can definitely show her like, okay, you're gonna be going up against some powerful people, and you need like my brother to really get you together because that's his thing. I can get you more so like, okay, this is how you become diplomat. This is how you deal with different people. When people don't want to give you the answers, the things that you need, here's how you persuade them. Here's how you use your femininity as a woman to kind of get things to what you want. Using that, I think Leia would have been a better tutor in that regard. And then she passes them off to Luke, like, okay, now you're ready to go see Luke. And Luke now would take you because she has my stamp of approval because he listens to
Yeah,
me.
no,
So
I
he's
mean, and
like,
that all
it
makes
would have made, it
sense.
would have, yeah.
But I just, I think a lot of it though, she definitely is the one, no doubt, that you would want to train Rey. Not to mention the fact that, I mean, and this is the thing that was kind of bumming me out, dude. Her lightsaber was amazing. Like the Leia
Yeah.
lightsaber. I'm
Yeah.
like,
It looked cool. Yeah.
what a waste. That was almost a Phasma level thing. It's like you show us this really cool lightsaber and then that's it. Like this 2-minute scene where we get to see the hilt. That's
Well,
what we get.
at least we got to see Leia wield it, at least,
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. I mean, it sounds selfish, but if Carrie Fisher had to pass, I wish she had completed The Rise of Skywalker.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
just wish. Plus, the OCD in me is like, man, you were almost there.
Almost there. You're right.
To
It's like that
bookend the
unfinished
thing.
thing.
Right.
Yep.
It's like the second to last, really? I mean, come on. So yes, I agree wholeheartedly that I think that Leia not only was the best to train her, but in a lot of ways, the expanded universe alluded to it, new canon has alluded to it, that she actually could have been more powerful than Luke.
Yeah, she had her limbs. So yeah.
Well, that's a part of it, but I think that also it's like her temperament and a lot of things. I don't know. It's almost like she would be like the Obi-Wan and Luke would be Anakin type of thing.
Yeah,
So
I can see that.
I guess that's the way it's going to work. So we got a couple of chats. Ted basically says, correct. No issues with Daisy or her performance, only the plot and writing. I hope her next movie does her justice, along with John Boyega's Finn as well. Yes, absolutely. Because that's another thing that I felt really bad about, was that John Boyega's character was kind of wasted.
Oh, totally.
And it's like you had this really incredible backstory about a stormtrooper who defects and all this other stuff, and you're not. This is where you're gonna. You know what? I digress. David writes in, says, "Sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm late. You missed all of our. We had this whole like final or not final.
Fast and Furious.
Fast and Furious. I'm like Final Destination. We had this whole Fast and Furious thing going, completely going.
We talked about. Yeah, you missed Jenny Carano, man.
Yeah. You're going to want to go back and, watch what you missed, because we did get into a few things with Fast and the Furious. It was amazing. All right. So we got 2 more to go. I think it's going to be fairly obvious where we're going to go from here in our list of 10. Again, I have to point out that this is not a weighted list. We weren't going from 10 to 1 or anything like that. This is just, look, we're just trying to get the discussion going for you guys. Give you some ideas. Here's some people that we think are cool, that are beautiful. Their characters were good in some cases. Although, again, in this particular list, it's sort of like the beauty is going to override the talent a little bit. But with a woman that actually, absolutely, without question, has both, we've got, of course, Natalie Portman as Padme. You see what makes the return.
The white pants.
The white pants are back. But
oh man, Eric's favorite.
But she's a character, and this is, again, you see this a lot in Star Wars, where some of the women, they actually alter their appearance quite a bit. Like Zam Wessel comes to mind. Like, if you actually see a picture of the actor, she's another one I could have put in this list. I mean, she's a really, really very pretty woman. I don't know if I'd say she's like beautiful or stunningly beautiful, but she is, amazing looking. Way more amazing than what you would think Zam Wessel would look like, right? This is another example. Yeah, right. Well, because here's the thing. When you have some of these actresses, the character requires them to have their appearance significantly altered. We can understand that. So in some of the cases tonight, with the list, you saw that, like, whoa, what they look like in real life versus what they look like in their makeup and all that. Here, this is a different kind of thing going. They didn't necessarily alter Natalie Portman's appearance so much, at least from like a facial and all that type of deal, but what they did was they changed her tone. When she was Padme, I mean, sure, sometimes she could have a certain softness, like during that one scene in Revenge of the Sith, when her and Anakin were in the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good example. But for the most part, she had to be kind of on her toes, right? Whereas, of course, the picture on the right is showing the little bit softer, model beautiful kind of thing. So,
yeah. What is your? I mean, I don't even know why I'm asking you this question, because
of the type of show
it
is.
Well, that too, and I already know your answer. But what do you think was her best outfit? Natalie Portman or Padme?
Well,
let me say her best look. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the picture that we were showing with the whole white pants thing, they showed her in like a ponytail, but she did actually have kind of, flowing hair in that. The whole arena scene was great. I know a lot of people go to the dominatrix scene in Attack of the Clones, where she's wearing that kind of leatherish thing where she's telling Anakin, like, You know?
Are you for the dinner scene?
What?
That's my favorite one. When they were sitting at the dinner and they were, I think it was at the dinner scene when he was making the little piece of fruit float. He's like, if Obi-Wan saw this,
No,
he'd be
no,
very
no, not that
grumpy.
scene. Not that scene. It was similar but later. That was more like lunch. This is definitely dinner. There's a lot of stuff.
The candlelight one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
one where she
That was
dresses up like some dominatrix and then just goes on about how they can't be together.
Yeah.
That one, that scene.
That one. Yes. That was my favorite.
Voyager chats in. The light blue number on Tatooine when she says goodbye to Anakin before he goes to the Tusken Raiders. That's favorite outfit.
Ah.
I vaguely remember that. And then of course, as you predicted, David said Gina is number 1. Again, not a weighted list, dude. If any of these women are number 1, all good. We're not debating a list.
This is non-judgment zone.
Yeah, right.
Tonight.
A little bit of Planet Fitness in there. A little bit. Not much of it. Well, actually, a lot. But this is definitely a no judgment zone. And again, in our defense, we are admiring more than just their beauty. We're talking about their portrayal of the characters. We're talking about some of the challenges maybe they had to go through to get in this kind of shape or, whatever the case may be. All right. So, wait, David's really on. See, I wish you were here earlier. You could have really. Okay. So David says, it's no debate. It's Gina by far.
Well, you know where he stands.
Yeah, Ted's basically kind of with me on that. I vote for the white suit. Lots of action. Well, and especially after, the one creature Clotter and did the whole midriff cut thing or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of had the whole Bruce Lee, what was it, Game of Death? It was the last one he shot. And when he got cut on across his abs, but in this one it's across her back.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. I didn't even really think of the parallel. Voyager says, as a society, we don't talk about Rosario's back muscles as Ahsoka.
Man, I agree.
100%.
Yeah, Rosario, she's got it, man.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons why, again, I was trying to find where I could, and in Rosario's case I did, was that bikini picture, because it really does show off, just how muscular and ripped some of these women are. And just all the definition in the the musculature, the striations, all that stuff. I mean, there's just a lot. And it's nice when they do that, because in a lot of cases, they don't necessarily have to. I mean, sure, if you're Adam Driver or, what's the guy that played the latest Sith Lord doing The Acolyte? I keep wanting to say Manny something, Manny Jinkto or something.
Jacinto.
Yeah.
Manny Jacinto.
So if you're one of those two guys, and yeah, you're going to have to basically go shirtless. And so, sure, they're probably going to definitely, without question, make sure that they're in solid shape. But quite frankly, a lot of these people, they don't necessarily have to do that. And the fact that they do that is great. Now, of course, again, not in any particular order. This isn't necessarily number 1. Although before I get to this, keep you guys in suspense. Voyager says, Daisy also looks very athletic. Not really in a muscular way, but in a cardio way. She looks like a track and field star. Yep. I was thinking that too. One of the other reasons why generally I like to get full body shots of these women, which I was successful in doing here. This is, of course, Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia. She always gets into the whole, the metal bikini thing, right? That's the extent of it. But again, I think people have lost sight of the fact that in A New Hope, she actually had a more like classic type beauty thing going on. You know, a little bit of a 1940s elegance type of thing. Even when she was in the prison, you know, kind of the way that she was laying there like one of those classic sultry songstresses or whatever that would lay on the piano. You know, it was sort of that
Right.
vibe, right? And then of course I would say in Empire Strikes Back, it was a little bit more regal. I mean, after she got out of the Hoth snowsuit, basically, it was kind of this regal, flowing Bespin dress that she had that was actually very nice. And then, of course, they expanded that into Return of the Jedi, where they gave us a little bit of both. They gave us some more action Leia. Some of the outfits were a little bit more, I don't know, military would probably be the best way to put it. More like tack gear. But then, of course, we
Yeah.
have the famous bikini scene, too. And this, of course, showed off. And honestly, I don't know why, but all of us as kids were just like stunned, right? We didn't expect
Yeah.
that. We did not
I didn't
expect.
expect that at all either. And granted, I didn't like this movie had been out for like,
Right.
a few years. I mean, some years because it would have came out in what,
3.
83?
Yep.
So I wasn't even born yet. I was born the next year. So by the time I saw it, it had been out for like almost like 10 years or so. So as I'm looking at it, I didn't expect that. I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah, I didn't know
Didn't
all
know
that
Leia.
was under there,
I know that
honestly.
exactly.
I
You're
mean,
just like,
well, and
all
here's the
right.
funny part, and this is the funny part about Carrie Fisher that amazes me, because just 2 short years later, or maybe it was 3, it was 2 or 3. It came out in '86, but it was probably shooting in '85. So 2 or 3 years later, she shoots The Burbs, and she plays Tom Hanks' wife. And honestly, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. I love that movie, but it took me, I think, the first 4 times that I saw it, I didn't even know that was Carrie Fisher. Like, they had changed her look and made her a little bit frumpier,
Yeah.
and she has the ability to do that. She's done that in a couple of roles, and it's amazing because you look at this photo here, particularly the bikini one. You know, you're
Mhm.
just like, man.
Yeah, she had this whole like I Dream of Jeannie look going on. I mean,
Hmm.
that's like, okay.
You know, and she looks amazing there. And then there's times where she can go back to looking a little frumpier, maybe a little homelier would probably be the best way to put it. Maybe that's
She looks more like a mom. But she
yeah,
just
like
looks,
right, exactly, kind of more like a mom, right? But then another good example when she did the 2007 Video Music Awards, she had been known, you know, she had gained some weight, she had done all that. I guess before the music awards, maybe because they told her they wanted to do this, but it was when they wanted to duplicate the metal scene at the end. So she had to get, you know, into that like white sheer dress and with the long braids or
hmm
whatever that she had. And she did. And it was like she looked almost identical to the way that she looked in A New Hope. Like she hadn't aged that much at all. And it was just so wild to see that. Because that was only in 2007.
Yeah, I mean, definitely shout out to the late Carrie Fisher. I mean, and not only that, man, she's a hilarious, writer.
Yeah. Yep.
She's, you know, basically a comedian at heart, really. Excuse me. So when we talk about, the personalities of some of these people and their characters and things like that, once again, she's a very likable person just because she's so warm and fun. Although she plays a character that's a little bit more serious, she's not cracking jokes, except for when we get to uh The Force Awakens, when she says, "Oh, you didn't say anything about my hair" or something like that. It was just like that was the one time like, oh, Leia cracked a joke. Almost. It was sarcastic, but
Well, she
it
was
was still a
like kind of
joke.
on fire because didn't she also say something like when they were talking about Star Killer and Han was like, well, can't, and she was like, don't say blow it up or something like that.
Oh no, she said you can't do something like what we. Yeah, it was some line in that whole
Yeah, because
battle
he was
strategy
about to say
scene.
something. She was like, don't say blow it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So that really makes Carrie Fisher, for men of that time who would be more into her. Like I could see why like she would be, the choice, especially back then.
yeah, well, that was, and it's funny too because there's a lot of considerations with this, right? Like with Ahsoka, it was nice that I was able to find that bikini shot of Rosario because that's the live action actress that we have. But it's
Hmm.
also good because again, you could almost say that somebody's drawn more attractively than the actress that you have finding them, and it just, at first you're almost tempted, even in the representation, to just go ahead and put the animated Ahsoka on there. But then I remembered that the animated Ahsoka is like 14, so uh, you
Yeah,
know
it's
that goes into
gonna
a little
have
bit of gray area.
yes,
It's like,
Twitch
no,
David
but this
hates.
is this is more from like season 3, though. She's like,
She's like 21 then.
that's why, yes, exactly. That's why it was safer to do the whole Rosario thing. Okay, David said, "Who's y'all's number one?"
It's not a weighted list. We're
Yeah,
not.
we're not doing this, man. We're saying, oh, now granted, I mean, I have to admit, we are. I mean, just watching our thing, it says who is the hottest woman in Star Wars. That was really more like you guys are supposed to start chiming that in. We're just
Yeah.
putting some names out there. That's all we're doing. We're putting some names out there.
But we know who your number one is, David.
Yeah, we already know it's Gina Carano. But actually, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and go back through some of these because, some people might have missed it or whatever. So, again, not weighted, so I'm not saying at number 10. It's just we have Ming-Na Wen. And, of course, she's,
Okay.
incredible, underrated. We kind of went through some of that. And then, of course, we had Amy Allen because this is a good example of somebody that when they're in all the heavy Star Wars makeup, you don't realize just how beautiful some of these women are. It's like, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting that. So that's pretty
Yes.
cool. Yeah, and it's nice that,
When
because
you're
it
looking
can't
like an
be fun.
avatar,
Yeah, and that's the thing. This isn't CGI, man. I mean, these people are spending like hours in a makeup chair getting painted blue, basically. So you got to give it to them in that sense. All right, and then of course we had Moses Ingram, as Reva. It gave us yet a different kind of a look. And
she
so
still reminds
again,
me of Issa Rae. That's who she reminds me of, Issa
yeah,
Rae.
no, I can see that without question. And hopefully there was rumors that even though we saw her death on screen, you know how it goes. It's kind of like the Darth Maul thing.
Hmm.
We might be seeing more stuff from her. We'll have to see. Okay, and then of course after her, we had one of my picks, the fictional Mara Jade. And of course, as I said, I'm abiding by the rules here. If you go with like a drawn person in a comic or in a novel, then you have to find an actress or somebody that you think could play them. And so I chose Karen Gillan because, I mean, just look at it's a no-brainer. This is almost to me like the whole Rosario Ahsoka thing. It makes sense. Unless, of course, as Daryl pointed out earlier, the woman can't even say 2 lines without, having a coach like feeding them to her. I mean,
Yeah,
you got to be able to act. You don't
unless
have
she's from Squid Game and can't, speak the English
Yes,
language. Then.
yes. There you go. Well, that's what you do. You just put her on Squid Game for like a season or something. All right.
There you go.
So after the fictional Mara Jade and getting Karen Gillan to do it, then we had, of course, Gina Carano, which, as we all know, is David's number one. Then, of course, we had the aforementioned Rosario Dawson. Apologies to Voyager for not focusing on her back muscles, but it is true. But look at the rest.
If you want to submit your favorite picture of Rosario Dawson, we would definitely take that.
Yeah, absolutely. Discord, baby. Discord.
Yep.
If you guys want to submit pictures of who you think is the hottest, that would actually be kind of fun, honestly. Or even on the Facebook page. All right, and then of course we had Emilia Clarke, another one of my picks. I love the character of Qi'ra anyway, but I really think that Emilia Clarke has, again, somewhat of that like 1940s film noir kind of a vibe going. She brings a little bit of a quirky beauty to the whole thing. And again, I think that she really did well in conveying the whole pretty much I'm just like this beautiful woman trying to make my way across the universe sort of thing. And then also balancing that cunning, that conniving, that somewhat deceitful thing that she's got going. I mean, you can't deny that the character's good. Whether or not you like the movies that they're in, that's a different story. Okay, and then from there we went with Daisy Ridley. Again, another one where they changed her look enough that you see her in civilian clothes and you're like, all right. I didn't know this. So that's always good.
Little girl next door.
Right. You, I think, hit the nail on the head. You said she's got the total girl next door vibe. She's also has like an air of elegance about her. You've seen her in a lot of period pieces. Right after The Force Awakens, I think she did Murder on the Orient Express, actually. So that was somewhat of a period type piece. So she does have the ability to alter her looks for what needs to be done. And that's a really good thing for her to be able to do, especially because right now, I know she's having a little bit of a problem breaking beyond the whole Rey stereotype. So there is that. All right, and then, of course, we had Natalie Portman on there as well. After all, she's another one that's sort of like Leia, where she has a bunch of different types of outfits. If you were to collect her action figure, you'd have to collect like 10 different ones. And they did that with Leia too. There was
outfits.
Yep, because there was Princess
like
Leia, like the New Hope one. There was like Bespin Leia, Hoth Leia, Endor Leia, and everything in between. Yeah, it was crazy. There was no kissing her brother Leia though. I noticed they left that one out.
Or Malibu. They didn't have a Malibu.
Yes, they didn't exactly. But the closest they came was, of course, the whole metal bikini, as we said. So,
Return of the Jedi.
Yes. So, I mean, look, these are just a few of the women that you could say, okay, this might be the hottest woman in Star Wars. But, of course, it's really not up to us. It's up to you guys. We always say this. Now, we got some good chats. That was good. They started to come in a little later. Of course, we got no phone calls again, but that's all right. One of these days, you guys will call in. Maybe next Sunday. I think we'll do the calling thing on Sundays. All right, so we don't really have a topic yet for tomorrow, do we?
No, not yet.
All right, well, that's part of the fun. So just watch, see what we come up with tomorrow. Of course, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Want to welcome new subscribers that have joined. Hopefully you guys become a participating part of the community. Join our Discord. We've got, our Facebook group. Got all kinds of ways that you can contact us, keep up with us, and everything else. So I guess until tomorrow, I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.